Good to go.
Okay, well, hi, my name is Laura Sachs, and I'm here to give you a bit of an overview with my friend Jamie about Ecocide law.
Excellent. And thank you so very much, Laura and Jamie. I'm very pleased to be hosting you. I'm Judy Green. I'm a leadership contestant for the Green Party of Canada. And Alex, thank you for joining us as well. How did you come about to join us?
I've been following the Green Party leadership contest, and I've been doing my best to try to catch everyone on Zoom at some point, but I hadn't actually made my way over to this campaign yet.
Awesome.
And saw that you had the chat with Ecocide today, so figured it was a good opportunity to learn a bit more about both of you.
Excellent. Perfect. I'm glad to have you here. Thanks. Okay, back to you, Laura.
Okay, great. I didn't know if Jamie wanted to say hi at this point too or not.
Sure.
But,
Yeah, I'm Jamie, and I'm here with Laura to talk a bit about Ecocide law, and we're very happy to be here.
and we're here from British Columbia near Nelson.
Okay, awesome.
And so what we were hoping to do today is do a bit of tag teaming, and so I'll just give a really high overview. Jamie's going to get into a lot of the details. Then I'll we'll pause for questions, of course, at any time. And then I'll talk about some exciting things that have been happening recently. And then Jamie will see if there's some follow-up that could be done as well.
Perfect.
And so, so before we jump in, it's always nice to kind of make a person-to-person connection. And I wanted to thank you. I have a background in the sciences, and so I was looking at some of your videos, and seeing you approaching the climate crisis from that science lens is, I think, really important. And relying on that highly reputable data, in this era with a lot of misinformation. So I think that's really critical. And also, I really appreciate the work that you've done as a grassroots community organizer, and some of your focus on local and healthy foods. With, for example, the Digby and Area Community Health Board and the Fresh Food Box. I have a passion for local food, and I've spent some time as a small-scale organic farmer. And that was until my concern about the climate crisis made me sort of shift gears and focus on more grassroots community organizing work with Citizens Climate Lobby, with the Community Climate Hub Initiative, and also recently with the BC Climate Alliance as well. So just wanted to say that we're really grateful, to have a chance to talk to you here, and also we're grateful to find out that you've stated twice in town hall meetings that, as a Green Party federal leader, that you would support a law making ecocide a crime.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's great. And so an international law on ecocide would support all the work that I'm doing and so many other people around the world are doing, since it would be this overarching framework that a law of ecocide makes mass damage and destruction of the environment a criminal offense. And so, for example, it would be pretty hard to protect human rights if genocide were legal. In the same way, it's really difficult to protect the earth that we love because mass damage is still legal. So I'm going to pass it on for more details about ecocide law to Jamie.
Sure.
Yeah, so I guess I'd like to just kind of talk a little bit about kind of how the Stop Ecocide campaign has evolved, and what we're doing here. We're a new group in Canada, but we're very excited to see where this takes us.
Good.
So the Stop Ecocide campaign is based in the UK, and it was started by a lawyer called Polly Higgins, who became really tired of representing these kind of basically environmentally destroying corporations and finding ways for them to get out of any kind of consequences to that. And so she came up with this idea of the Stop Ecocide campaign from that. And because of that, it's very sound, I think, in the way it's set up. and very much based on what will work, and yeah, it has a really good solid grounding in that.
That's good to hear. You know, we've got another person I have to pay attention here as moderator. My position has always been very clear cut that, you know, I don't have a problem with somebody making a reasonable living as a profit in any kind of business or corporation. But if that profit comes on the back of people or the planet, that's a predatory practice. And I have zero tolerance for predatory practices. So that's one of the reasons that I do support this movement towards ecocide laws. I honestly see, especially where we've seen, you know, large oil and gas companies admitting that they've had whole departments that have been tracking climate change since the mid-'80s, and they knew that they were contributing to it. And their practice is called predatory delay, because they're delaying doing anything about it to get as much profit out of the practice as they possibly can before they're forced to stop. And, you know, I think we just saw, I think it was BP that just announced over $6 billion loss in the second quarter this year. And they are shifting 40% of their manufacture away from oil and gas and into clean energy. So we're seeing a transition now, but we have to watch them because they don't have the best interest of the planet at heart. And so there's ways of greenwashing clean energy where it's not truly the better choice, you know. So we really have to watch what these practices are, and I think we're going to see a lot of greenwashing in these transitions. I applaud them making that decision. It's like 20, 30 years earlier would have been better, but at least that they're moving in that direction now. But when the big companies start to do that, then we start to see more. I also lived in Alberta for many years, and like 15 years ago, it was obvious what lengths companies were getting out of from the way they structured companies to be subsidiaries, and then they move all of their assets into the parent company, and then they go bankrupt in the subsidiary, which severs any responsibility for them to pay for cleanup. And this is their practice. It's repeatable, and you see it over and over and over again. And yet our government has not yet once held them to account. And that has to stop, because when you look at the full cost of what oil and gas is, which is really quite cheap, but when you start looking at what the taxpayers are having to pay to remediate these orphaned oil and gas wells, that gas that you're putting in your car is not so cheap anymore. So it's, you know, it's that full cost accounting, looking at everything that goes into it, that we have to keep in the public eye, so that there isn't the shady maneuverings that these companies are so good at doing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and I think that's where a law of ecocide really comes in, because it really affects things not just in Canada, but it means that those companies can't just go and do that elsewhere, which they do so often now as well, or they can even just hide their headquarters in some other country. And with an international crime of ecocide, that just can't happen, because it's applied, the same standards are applied all around the globe.
Exactly. And just like we had after the Second World War, we had the war crimes trials at Nuremberg. I've often had this vision that there would be, you know, climate trials for companies that have been actively participating, knowingly participating in practices that were heading us into the climate crisis, and having to pay reparations, because it's always the people on the planet that were least involved in creating the crisis that are paying the price. Around those equatorial areas, we're seeing it already with these massive, like up to 50 degrees Celsius in some Middle Eastern countries, even this year. It's going to become unlivable in certain areas of the country of the planet very rapidly. And somebody has to be held responsible for that.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. And I certainly found that in Canada we have a particularly big part to play in that, just because so many of those corporations are based here. So I'm really excited to see where the campaign goes here in terms of that. We're certainly gaining some traction. We've got now quite a lot of support among the Green Party, which is amazing. And we're beginning to meet with some MPs.
Excellent, excellent.
So it's definitely moving in the right direction.
Good, I'm glad to hear that. And where can people find you on social media and that sort of thing? You can actually put it in chat if you want, so that we have a website and if you're on Facebook, Twitter, all those good things.
Yeah, we unfortunately don't yet have any social media accounts.
Okay.
That's literally in under a week, we're hoping.
Okay, awesome. Jumping the gun a little bit. Alrighty, we'll update with that.
But we do have people are welcome to visit the stopecocide.earth website. Yeah, and that's the website for the international campaign, and
I can put it in the I can put it in the chat.
Perfect. That would be great.
And there's two different websites then, right, Jamie? There's the Stop Ecocide, and then there's Ecocide Law as well, which gets into more of the nuts and bolts. So one is more of the campaign, sorry. Hit mute instead of chat, because I have my window. There we go. One is more of the campaign, that's this one. And then the other one is more of the legal side to answer more of the detailed questions. I'll put that in there too.
Excellent. I love that it's stopecocide.earth. I didn't even know that there was a domain name .earth. That's brilliant. I love it.
That was one of my favorite things when I found out about it too.
Yeah, that is so cool. Being a computer scientist, I'm totally geeking out right now.
Okay, I'll just get the other one up. Here we go. So that's the other one that talks a little bit more about the background. And Jamie, you want me to go talk about some of the exciting initiatives going on, and then we can kind of move forward, or did you have some more things you wanted to share?
No, that sounds great. Yeah, I think that would be great to talk about that.
Yeah, great. There's been a lot of really exciting things that are happening really very recently about Ecocide law. And these things are in the past month, although I did want to say that Pope Francis has been speaking in favor of Ecocide law. I think that was since November maybe of this past year. And then in June 27th, the French President Macron, he became the first leader of a wealthy industrial nation, one of the G7, to support an international crime of ecocide. And on July 16th, an open letter from 4 well-known young climate activists, Greta Thunberg from Sweden, and Louisa Neubauer from Germany, Anuna de Wever and Adelaide Châtelet, both are from Belgium. They both, in this open letter, called for EU member states to advocate to make ecocide an international crime at the International Criminal Court. And thousands of citizens, scientists, and influencers have already put their names on the letter, with more joining all the time. So it's really just happening right now, a lot of attention. And then the next day, July 17th, the Belgian Green parties introduced a bill to make ecocide a crime and to support ecocide amendments at the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. And then on July 20th, Greta Thunberg was awarded the first Gulbenkian Prize for Humanity, and she donated 100,000 euros to the Stop Ecocide Foundation. So those are just, a few of the things. I think maybe watching the news, there's things happening all the time, and it's really right in the forefront of having this conversation.
That's excellent.
That's the part where I think I heard about it. I think I saw that letter and I didn't know the details of that, but I'd seen some of that floating around Europe and didn't know we had a Canadian wing.
Excellent. So you could get involved, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can sign up on that the stopecocide.earth website, and they're, like Jamie said, just getting organized. We're just getting organized here in Canada, and the exciting thing is that this is, I don't know, Jamie, you didn't really introduce yourself that way, but he was very involved, or it still is, in the Fridays for Future movement, and shifted over to also this frame of ecocide law before Greta was speaking out on this. I mean, this was 6 months ago or more. And in our area, a lot of the youth from the Nelson Fridays for Future team have been focusing on this. And I think it's really exciting that the Stop Ecocide campaign here in Canada is largely youth driven.
Excellent, excellent. You know, that's one thing that we're trying to do within the party as well, is to provide platforms for the youth to be able to step up and take leadership. And, you know, that's really, really important. But it's important to understand that we don't expect the youth to do all the heavy lifting, but their voices need to be heard, and en masse. You know, with the Green Party, our youth wing you can join the Green Party at 14 years old. And actually right now it's only $1 to join, and you can actually vote for the new leader, which is pretty exciting, which you have to be in by the 3rd of September, get your membership in. So it's, if anybody listening wants to know, just reach out to me, I'll help you, because it's kind of a backdoor way to get that discount. Otherwise it's $10 a year for your membership, or $25 for 3 years. But we do have an active youth wing within the party that I'd like to see having more leadership roles.
That's great.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think the reason why I kind of became involved with Stop Ecocide is just because I see it as such a game changer. It changes the whole narrative around all the different campaigns to stop issues going on with climate change. It helps them all so much.
Yeah, it does.
It's such a big action.
Exactly. It pulls it all into one lens. It's all the different actions that are, I think that's one of the things that people struggle with the climate crisis, is there's so many things that we're doing as human beings on the planet that negatively impact the climate. Climate itself is so complex that for the average person, it's hard to put it all together and to understand the causal relationship between what they're doing in their homes, what the big companies are doing. And there's all sorts of ways of rationalizing it in people's minds. You know, well, this country is doing so much worse than us, so, you know, why should we bother? It really isn't making a difference. But when you have it cut and dry that this is not acceptable by anybody on the planet, and we now have a law that will be enforced, you know, that will be a game changer.
I think so.
Yeah, I think even just having that as the law will shift things, because if it's illegal and a CEO is potentially threatened with jail time and criminal court, that shifts things, instead of what corporations do now, which is just put stuff, people need to sue them. First of all, you have to have the money to sue, and also maybe if you lose, you have court costs, and so it's really expensive. And the large corporations just kind of keep a little bit of it tucked to the side for their legal costs, and it's just another part of doing dirty business.
Absolutely, and they plan it that way. They have, you know, and one of the tactics is to just outlast, you know, to outlast any litigation that comes against them. And when they have the stable of lawyers, they can do that.
Yeah. One thing that's interesting about ecocide law, I'll just read this. It says, it's loss, damage, or destruction of ecosystems of given territories such that peaceful enjoyment by the inhabitants has been or will be severely diminished. And so I think that one thing, this is important as well, by carefully choosing the term inhabitants, it's not just human-centric, but it's the whole, you know, ecosystem, the whole crisis that's happening with biodiversity and loss of species because of human actions as well. So So the climate change, as you said, climate crisis affects so many different aspects of things, from what plants and animals can survive to ocean acidification, and as well as those humans that are living in places where temperatures will no longer be suitable for humans, as you mentioned.
So do you have a written document or graphic that lays out in simple terms what what Ecocide is and what you are hoping to achieve through this creating the law?
I'll let Jamie answer that, because you've spent a lot more time looking at and dealing with all the information and design and stuff that they have. I believe there's a lot of resources.
And
Yeah.
if you do, let me know, because I can give you co-host rights and you can share your screen if you had something you wanted to share.
Yeah, there are graphics definitely on the website.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any kind of in front of me right now, but yeah, as Laura said, the definition is, or the commonly accepted definition is destruction to or damage of an ecosystem such that peaceful enjoyment by the inhabitants is severely diminished.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's not actually a law yet, the exact definition will change and grow
Mm-hmm.
over time, and certainly different groups use different definitions. But
Mm-hmm.
that's essentially the idea.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, really what we hope to achieve by that is, well, like I said before, it's partly just a game changer where it adds this extra piece to all other environmental movements.
Mm-hmm.
So helpful in that way. And it changes our narrative as a species. It changes our we're here and we can take from the planet to we're here and we have to live with the planet.
Mm-hmm. And perhaps a little bit of protecting the planet would be a nice change of mindset. You know, one of the things that I've identified early on is that in Canadian society, North American society, we really have this consumer idea that something magically happens to provide something that we then use and then we discard. And we have blinders on. We have no idea where it's coming from or what's involved in the creation of that item. And we have no idea where it goes after it leaves the house. And so, we have a lot of talk about a circular economy and having manufacturers responsible for the end of life recycling of their products, because we need to be looking at not using up finite resources and creating infinite waste in a finite system, which is the planet. We have to look at it's called biomimicry, looking at what biology in the earth is doing and how its systems work. Not one of them that I'm aware of is linear. They're all circular. Every output is an input for something else. That's how our earth works. Why on earth human beings think that we can exist and survive and thrive counter to that basic dynamic of how life works on our planet is beyond me. And so there is a mindset change that really has to go along with working towards our survival on this planet.
Yeah, definitely. It was that I guess it was that thought that was one of the things that kind of got me thinking that we need to do something about climate change in the first place, was that idea of infinite growth. But with what resources? It's, well, yeah, like you said, it's a finite planet. So we have to be operating in a different way.
Exactly. Well, that's one of the reasons that I'm a real fan of the donut economic model, because it ensures that everybody has those basic human needs met, and that it constrains growth within the carrying capacity of the earth. And it's being used, it's been scaled bigger and smaller to work in large governmental structures, as well as in small, in over 100 places across the world. And this has been since 2012 was when she first released it. And it's wonderful. I absolutely love it. And if you look at all of the spokes on her wheel, they really map to policies within the Green Party about issues that we're talking about, reducing, greenhouse gases, about ensuring that people have clean water, that there's a guaranteed livable income, that basic needs are met, but that we're not, overcutting forests, that we're doing sustainable management in our forestry. So it's an easy way to help people put it all together, put that complexity together. And I'm finding that it's really helpful tool when talking to people about, well, we want to stop ecocide, but how's it going to affect me? Like what's the end product for me? Because people aren't making that connection between the survival of the planet and their personal survival. The survival of ecosystems and the collapse of so much that's going on in our planet. We're in a mass extinction, and on and on and on. But people adjust and adapt. I mean, that's one reason that human beings are living all across the world in very inhospitable areas on both the south and north end of this planet, is that we're highly adaptable. And I even hear people now, when we're having like multiple hurricanes coming through Nova Scotia in the course of a year, oh yeah, we used to get hurricanes all the time, but we didn't. It used to be very rare, but now it's happening very often, but people have acclimatized to it. So we're going to be fighting some of that going forward. And one of the things that I've learned in being in business is that people want to know how what you're saying is going to personally affect them. So messaging is going to be really, really critical moving forward, so that people understand how stopping ecocide will personally affect them. And so that might be a bit of a challenge, but it's something that I really advise that you work on, because that's where your buy-in is going to happen. Because people, honestly, especially with COVID-19, is that they are at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Everyone's been tossed down to where they're needing security. They need those basic human rights, want to make sure that their rent is going to be paid. So that's where a large part of our population worldwide, because of the pandemic, is right now. And so talking to them about something like ecocide is way up higher on Maslow's hierarchy, and they're just not equipped physiologically to deal with it at this juncture, where we have these multiple crises that are happening across the world: the global pandemic, the climate crisis, the economic crisis, is all kind of intersecting to make it very difficult for people to think of esoteric and things outside of themselves. So it just means that the languaging needs to be addressed, and ensure that you're really talking in terms of how it affects people personally in their day-to-day lives. And you can do that through imaging. There's a lot of different ways to do that.
That's great suggestion, and I'm taking notes. If I'm looking like I'm looking
good.
down,
Yeah, that's good.
I do the old-fashioned write on paper.
Me too.
So I'm listening, but I know with all these Zooms now, if we were in a room and you'd see that I was jotting this down, and I'm not like texting on my phone.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we have to be looking.
I know, and I still don't look right in the camera. I still want to look at the faces.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm talking, I'm looking at you, but you have no idea, and instead I'm not looking at the camera.
That's right, exactly.
But that's so important, the messaging that you're talking about in so many ways. So much of the different work that I'm doing, doing work with municipalities as well. And, it's challenging right now because budgets are difficult with COVID, and, the small businesses are not making it. There's so many challenges out there. And so how to frame it in that positive, like by doing these things, the health of the community improves, and and we create jobs. And so understanding those positive connections and that solutions have, rather than having it be taking away, for example.
Yes. Exactly.
Or making someone feel bad or guilty, or that those don't engage people.
No, they don't. They push people away, and for people who are at their hanging on by a rope, in terms of all the stresses in their lives right now. They don't need anything more like that. But,
Yeah.
you know, if we really look at who the top, for instance, the top CO2 production is, you know, maybe 100 industries. You know, it's not that the person on the street, it's the big polluters that need to be brought into check. And that's where laws like Ecocide can really help governments to have some teeth where they've kind of been captured by corporations up to now. I'll say it straight. Because if we don't get those in check, those big emitters, those big companies, all of us working together to do everything we can in our personal lives will not amount to what they are, the problems that they're creating. So really what we are talking about is these big, you know, the multinationals that really don't care about the countries that they go into and wreak havoc, and they just leave and it's all about profits. We see that even in the oil sands before COVID-19, when the Alberta provincial government gave money to oil sands companies, and they said, "Oh, thank you very much," put it in pocket, and actually left the country. They shut down and left. There was no new jobs. There was no cleanup. There was nothing for that money. And so we're seeing more and more of that as, you know, companies are of all sizes are stressing with the challenges with COVID. So it's kind of a unique moment in time that COVID has really illustrated some of the real big dark problems in our society that people who've had their eyes opened and have been watching know, but the average, you know, Canadian hasn't seen. They haven't seen the evidence of it, but COVID is really showing that. It's shining the light in the dark corners of our society, and it gives us an opportunity, like you said, just turn it around to something positive. It really gives us an opportunity to make change. You know, the experts in this say that we have a very narrow window through which we're stepping through this portal of change, that people will be open to making radical changes in what our society looks like. And it gives us the opportunity to put things in place that will allow us to have an equitable, just, clean, green future. And Ecocide fits right into that. But we have to all work together in order for that to happen. And that includes within and without the government. That's why I'm running what I ran in the election last time, and am not just on the streets marching with Extinction Rebellion anymore, is because I recognize that we need allies within Parliament, and we can't expect to change people's minds once they're elected. We need to be electing people who get it, who understand what the vision of the future is that we have to be working towards, and that we can't delay any longer. There's an urgency. You know, anyone who's read the IPCC report would have this urgency that is really driving a lot of people in this area as well now.
Yeah, so well said. Thank you. I'm like, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I really appreciated also you mentioning Kate Raywat's work on
Yes.
the donut economics. I took a class probably in 2014 where it was introduced to that, and it's so exciting to have it now becoming more widespread, and that you were also mentioning that shining the light on so many of the dark things and so many of the inequities, and it is a huge tragedy of COVID, but it's the silver lining is that we're seeing those. That's because right. They are there all the time, and so we can try to build that more just world. So yeah, so thank you. You're
welcome. You're welcome. And now we need to get in a position to take action, because you know, the bigger tragedy will be to know what needs to be done, to know how to fix it, and to not be in a position to do anything about it. That is tragedy. Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there's someone else on the line.
Yes, Lorinda. We all did introductions before you came. Do you want to pop on and just introduce yourself and let us know how you got here? Okay, You're unmuted.
Maybe
You can talk if you want to.
Okay, maybe not.
Okay, maybe not. Maybe later.
Yeah, well, I think one of the main goals that, Jamie, and I'm only peripherally involved in this, I must say, but I'm here as a supporter, but that I think the main goal right now for the Ecocide, the Stop Ecocide campaign here in Canada is to raise awareness of the use of the term, for example, and educating, and not to try to like have it pass Canadian law or anything, because I think that's just a huge. Here's
Oh
the
yeah.
chat.
Yes. No, we're not able to hear you, Lorinda. So it sounds like you're underwater a little bit, but there's no audible sound. Oh, you're from New Germany, so you're just down the road from me. Awesome. I'm in Clementsport, Nova Scotia. Mi'kma'ki, unceded lands of the Mi'kmaq people, or the Mi'kmaq. Mi'kmaq means the people. So saying Mi'kmaq people is like saying the people. Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us today, Lorinda.
Yeah, so that is definitely one of our main goals, is just to even just using the term ecocide more and making it kind of common knowledge. So that's why I was particularly happy when you used it on two of the town halls.
Excellent. So your ears perked up, did they?
So yes, yeah, that's really our goal right now, and then networking as well,
Absolutely.
and building up some support.
Have you reached out to our 3 Green MPs?
We have, yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
And certainly they are all in support.
Excellent.
So that's great.
Should think about provincial support as well, because we have the official opposition in PEI now with Peter Bevan Baker in his caucus. And we also have elected Greens provincially in British Columbia and in New Brunswick. Yes, Alex?
I was also just going to throw out there, not only are we the balance of, I'm in BC as well.
Oh, awesome.
But we've, the BC Greens have a leadership campaign of their own going on right now, which means there's probably going to be a few people that are very interested in looking to network like we are right now.
Yes, yes, so some more connections.
That's great. I think that you've been reaching out to a lot of people. Is that right, Jamie?
We have, yeah. It's really beginning to take off kind of just now. So
excellent.
Those are great. I wrote down the provincial in case that's not they're not on your list. Is there anybody else that you might suggest having a conversation to contact? It doesn't have to be in government if you think there's.
Well, I imagine that you've already been in touch with the Extinction Rebellion folks in your area, and there isn't a central organization there, but you'll have a lot of people gravitating there who are doing other things. Like Jamie Simpson is an environmental lawyer here in Nova Scotia who does a lot of work. He and I'm going to forget his name right now. Geez, and I know him, but Jamie Simpson and this environmentalist had actually taken the provincial government to court over their not protecting endangered species, the migratory birds, under the Migratory Bird Act, and they won. So Jamie Simpson is a really good contact. Jamie Simpson Law is how you would get hold of Jamie.
Okay, great. I wrote that down.
Thanks for that.
Sure. Yeah. Cindy, hey, what are you doing? My dog, she's sitting right on top of the cord, and I'm like, don't be chewing that.
Definitely not, right? Not good.
Silly girl.
I was also just going to suggest the David Suzuki Foundation out here in BC is quite well networked.
Great. Okay.
And there's the Environmental Action Group as well here in Nova Scotia that you might want to reach out to as well. They're quite well connected with other groups all across Canada.
And Jamie, is there any other follow-up request kind of things that you wanted?
I think that kind of, yeah, that covers everything I was planning on saying.
I think I'm looking at some of the notes here about possibly introducing support for Ecocide law at the National Prevention and Leadership Contest as an option, a possibility of bringing that up.
Well, right now, because of COVID, we won't be meeting in person. That decision's already been made. Whether we will be doing something online or at what date, we don't know yet. But that is a possibility. If I get the opportunity, we'll prepare for it.
Okay, well, that would be awesome. If there's anything that we can send to you, or if you're interested, Jamie, explain a little bit. There's some calls. Jojo Mehta, the lawyer that's leading the international campaign. Can you mention what's going on?
Yeah. So Jojo Mehta is the co-founder of the Stop Ecocide campaign. And she's now kind of running it. And if you're interested, she has kind of personal calls with people, normally kind of 3 people or so on a call, where she can, just meet and chat and talk about ecocide law and the finer points of what it really means. And
excellent. During the leadership campaign, I have limited time, but I would definitely be looking at doing something like that and getting a group together to speak with her in the future.
Great. Would you, Jamie, do you want to share her contact info or anything, or do you have that there you can put in the chat maybe?
Yeah, I can just put it in the chat.
Sure. Or you can send it by email to me.
Okay, maybe that would be easier. That would be more permanent.
Yeah. In my life, if it's not written down, it doesn't exist.
I understand. And I can just imagine, stepping up for such a thing. Very much.
I'm so behind on my so behind on my emails right now. So it's just me at judyandgreen.ca.
Perfect. Yeah, so I'll send that.
Awesome. That would be great. Does anyone else want the information sent to them? No. Okay. Okay. Awesome. If you reach out to me if you want it, I'll share.
Well, we really appreciate your time, knowing how busy you are, and so thanks so much. And it was so lovely to meet you. Really,
yes, absolutely. I always love talking to people who have so much hope and a plan and want to take action. That's so exciting to see. We sometimes get caught in these loops of negativity, so it's wonderful to see people in motion and taking the action towards such an awesome goal. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And
thank you.
Excellent.
Nice to meet the rest of you too, and have a great rest of your day.
Absolutely. You all as well. And if you want more information about me, it's just judyandgreen.ca or judyandgreen.com. Sometimes my forwarding doesn't work properly, so judyandgreen.com will get you there every time. And but the email address is .ca, so it's very confusing. Bizarre. Just see, now we've had this conversation and you'll remember it, so it's all good.
Yeah, very true. Making it complicated is good.
Yeah, exactly. Wonderful. Hey, excellent. Thank you. Lorinda. Excellent.
Lorinda left her email there.
Wonderful.
And so I will jot that down before logging off.
Excellent.
Or I guess I could save the chat, right?
Yeah, I think you can. It might be under.
Let's try to remember how to do that. It's one of those things where I don't do
and
it. Maybe I'll just write it down.
Okay, because it depends on what device you're on too, which is interesting. Yeah.
Just Lorinda. Okay, at Yahoo. Awesome. Okay.
Excellent. Well, thank you all. I'm going to stop recording now. But thank you all for coming tonight and just educating us more on Ecocide and the actions to get it into international law, which sounds very exciting. It's an effort that we need to be having a concerted effort across countries to ensure that this takes hold and that we have this tool added to our toolkit in the fight against the climate crisis. Thank you.